Okay, it's time for Jerry and the Goddesses Part 22. Not sure if this one needs a trigger warning. A very recently traumatized person uh, is appears in this part, if it is necessary. So now you know. Gary Johnson, former Green Beret, current very grumpy old dude with a gun. Gary released the flashbang in his hand the instant the environment changed. It clattered to the floor and rolled forward. As it did, he clocked his new surroundings, spotting a large group of people, all dressed the same way that greaser dude who had shot Bill had been dressed. He didn't hesitate, double tapping one, then another, then putting the first of two rounds in a third before the grenade went off. It looked for all the world like a dud, a phenomenon Gary had seen once or twice before. A puff of smoke, a brief flash, and a tiny bang like a firecracker, slightly amplified by the case. But the greasers reacted just as if it had gone off normally. Rather than questioning his good luck, he finished his double tap on the third guy and then shot one more. And then there were none. 5 dead men and 1 dead woman were on the ground in an honest direction, along with the 4 in his lane. Okay, Anna, he said, using the pet name he'd almost immediately given her on their business trip a few weeks back. Who's principal? Kathy Evanson, young girl, age 17, blonde hair, blue eyes, 5'3", 110 pounds. Last seen in white leggings and a red sundress, but probably not wearing it now. Gary knew what that meant. He muttered dire imprecations under his breath. That fucker from the range here? I don't know, but if he is, I'm gonna feed him a block of C4 and detonate it. Too fucking quick, Gary muttered. Then, I'm moving. Radio? No need. Just talk, I'll hear you, you'll hear me. Gotcha. Going now. He headed off down a hall. They appeared to be in an abandoned industrial building of some sort. Trash was piled in the corners and tiny weeds grew in the remains of long shredded carpets. A series of doors was on his right, nothing on the left but bare concrete stained with dripping water and mold. He kicked in the first door and scanned the room. Nothing but some old broken down equipment. He heard voices though. They were coming from the wall to his left, a thin plaster and board divider, not a concrete load-bearing structure. Gary considered whether they'd keep the hostage in that room and decided that would be dumb even by dumb criminal standards. Besides, the voices sounded like they were planning something. He shrugged, flipped his weapon to burst, and emptied his magazine through the walls with a couple trigger pulls. Surprise, motherfuckers, he muttered, then left and went to the door of that room, reloading smoothly. The element of surprise gone, he simply grabbed one of his frag grenades, pulled the pin by hooking it on the front sling of his rifle, and then tossed it underhand through a hole in the door. He hurried to the next door, wary of the overpressure. As the room behind him exploded with a bang that was deafening even through his earplugs, he kicked open the door. There were 2 more greasers there, one of them bleeding from what looked like a GSW. Damn, I love 6.8, he shouted as he gunned them down with 2 shots to the chest each. Blood welled on the bodies, letting him know that they weren't wearing any armor under those jackets. 2 more doors remained, and then the door at the end. He decided to pick up the pace, reaching up for his last grenade only to feel 2 still velcroed there. Ha! He said, God is on my side. Well, 2 of them at least. The 2 prettiest ones at that. He kicked open the door and caught a flash of a surprised look on a greaser's face, scanned the room for the principal, and when he didn't see her, rolled the grenade in and moved on. He repeated his trick of kicking in the next door right as the explosion sounded in the previous room, starting to wonder if maybe he should be a bit more careful. The walls separating them weren't very thick, and he didn't want to catch the girl with shrapnel. This room was empty as well, though. Time for door number 6. He could see sunlight coming from under the door, so he took a chance, placing one ear against it and listening for a second. He heard voices arguing, and then one of them raised in a shout. Well, fucking go then! He backed up, but right before he did, he could have sworn he heard a whimper. He took a knee in the hall, rifle aimed at the door right as it burst open. A red-headed woman with a cherub tattooed on her left cheek emerged, an enormous and enormously impractical Desert Eagle 50 AE held in her right hand. He walked 3 rounds from her crotch to the hollow of her throat, careful to keep his angle high. She collapsed and he rushed the door, quickly slicing the pie into the side of the room not visible through it. A filthy couch obscured part of the far wall, the rest of which was taken up by a large lighting window half covered in newspaper and half broken out. There were no other doors. There was no indication that the window had been used as an egress recently, so he straightened up. "Come on out from behind the couch, fucker," he said. A nervous voice, reedy and raspy, responded, "Fuck you! I've got a hostage, motherfucker. Get the fuck out of here or I'll cut her goddamn throat." "Okay, fine by me," Gary responded, and stomped his feet, loudly at first and then more quietly. He saw movement in the shadows by the couch and thought, "I can't believe that actually worked." At the exact same instant, the fucker behind the couch said the exact same words. The guy stood up. He had dark hair and a couple of tiny tattoos on his face. A tribal snake wound around his neck, reaching up to one ear. He wasn't as big or bulky as the greaser from the range had been, but he still looked dangerous. He had a much smaller, more practical handgun in one hand and a knife in the other, and he held them as if he knew exactly how to use them. The guy gaped at Gary in surprise. This dude would be trouble in a fight, so Gary chose not to fight. Instead, he simply killed. A single round right through the guy's nose. A feminine shriek erupted at the spray of blood, and Gary lowered his weapon to let it dangle by the sling. "Kathy?" he asked, walking around the couch, one hand on his sidearm. There she was, bound and bruised and naked as the day she was born. Her eyes were blindfolded, but she wasn't gagged, and Gary felt sick to his stomach as he realized why. "Kathy?" he asked again. "My name's Gary. I'm here to get you out." Who? She asked, her voice cracking with fear. Gary's heart broke at the sound. "I'm a Green Beret, Kathy. I'm here to rescue you. I'm gonna cut you free now, and I'm gonna have to touch you to do it, but that's the only thing I'm gonna touch you for, okay?" She whipped her head around, trying to locate him by sound, but after a moment she said, "Okay," in a tiny voice.